My name is Susan Whitaker. I'm 61 years old. At 7:22 on a Saturday evening in April, my daughter-in-law raised her glass of white wine in her dining room, smiled at 6 dinner guests, and said, "Honestly, Susan is the best thing that ever happened to our budget. Free babysitter, free laundry service, and she even brings snacks." Everyone laughed, not everyone cruelly. That was what made it sting deeper. Some laughed because they thought she was joking. Some laughed because awkward people laugh when a room tells them to. My son David laughed because he had spent years learning that if he chuckled when his wife humiliated me, he could pretend he was not participating. I was standing near the kitchen island with a bowl of roasted potatoes in my hands. I had peeled those potatoes. I had seasoned them. I had brought the rosemary from my own garden because my granddaughter Lily said Grandma's green potatoes were better than her mother's. I had arrived at David and Ashley's house that morning at 7:30 because they needed a little help before dinner. A little help meant watching the children while Ashley got her hair done, taking my grandson Noah to soccer practice, bathing both children, folding 2 loads of laundry, wiping yogurt off the kitchen chairs, making the side dishes Ashley forgot to prepare, finding the missing tablecloth, setting the dining table, and keeping the children upstairs during the appetizers because Ashley said, "It's nice when adults can have a calm start." A calm start. That was what she called sending the grandmother upstairs with crayons and crackers, while guests admired the hostess. Lily was 6, Noah was 4. They were my joy, my weakness, my soft place, and the reason I had allowed myself to become unpaid staff in a house where I was once welcomed as family. Ashley lifted her glass higher. "I'm serious," she continued. "People ask how we manage work, kids, and a social life, and I'm like, easy. Marry a man whose mother has no hobbies." More laughter. That one was sharper. No hobbies. I thought of my abandoned watercolors set in the closet at home, the book club I had stopped attending because Thursday pickups became Grandma's Day, the walking group that stopped texting because I always said I had the kids, the church garden committee I left when Ashley started scheduling dentist appointments on Wednesday mornings, the trip to Savannah my friend Carol had taken without me because Ashley couldn't find coverage during spring break. No hobbies. My life had not been empty. It had been emptied. David looked at me then. For half a second. His smile faltered, but he did not speak. That silence was older than the joke. Older than the dinner. Older than the 2 years I had spent arriving before breakfast and leaving after bedtime, because my son and daughter-in-law treated my love like a utility included in their mortgage. Ashley's friend Marin said, "I need one of those. My mother-in-law barely visits." Ashley laughed. "Oh, Susan loves it. She'd be lost without the kids." Lost. I set the potatoes down on the table, very carefully, because if I dropped them, they would remember the noise instead of the insult. Then I walked to the entryway, where my purse hung on the hook beside the children's backpacks. Inside was a cream envelope I had brought with me that morning, though I had not known if I would use it. I had prepared it after 2 years of being called helpful, available, retired, lucky, and finally free. It contained an invoice. Not a joke invoice. Not a cute grandmother note. A real, detailed invoice for 2 years of childcare, transportation, laundry, meal preparation, sick day care, weekend coverage, holiday coverage, and household tasks, performed under the assumption that I was happy to help. I had calculated, conservatively, lower than local nanny rates, lower than housekeeping rates, lower than emergency childcare rates. I did not charge overtime, though I could have. I did not charge emotional damages, though I should have. Total due, $68.440. I returned to the dining room while Ashley was still smiling. I placed the envelope beside her dinner plate. She looked at it. "What's this?" I smiled softly. "My invoice." The table went silent. David's face drained of color. Ashley laughed once, thinking I was performing a joke back. "Your what?" "My invoice," I said again. "Since I'm free babysitting, free laundry service, and free snack delivery, I thought it was time you saw what the free part has been worth." No one moved. Lily's little voice floated from the upstairs hallway. "Grandma?" I looked up toward the sound. "I'm here, sweetheart." Then I looked back at Ashley. "And after tonight, I won't be free anymore. This is that story. Before I tell you how my son and daughter-in-law learned that unpaid labor still has a market rate, tell me where you are watching or listening from, and what time it is there. I always wonder who hears stories like this while remembering the moment family confused your love with unlimited access. And if you connect with stories about women who were used, underestimated, insulted, and quietly took their power back, like and subscribe to Ultimate Revenge. Some women do not shout after being mocked at dinner. Some women bring an invoice. I grew up in Wilmington, Delaware, in a narrow blue house with white shutters and a kitchen table that always had one extra chair pulled out for somebody who needed something. My mother, Ruth, was the helper in every room. She watched nieces, baked for funerals, drove neighbors to appointments, hemmed dresses, picked up prescriptions, and kept emergency casseroles in the freezer like she was preparing for emotional weather. People loved her. People praised her. People used her. When I was 16, I once asked why she never said no. She was standing at the sink, washing a pan someone else had returned with dried lasagna crust on the corners. She said, "Because people need me." I said, "Don't you need you?" She smiled sadly and said, "You'll understand when you have a family." For years, I thought she was right. Then I watched her grow old before her time, praised by everyone and rested by no one. When she died at 68, half the town came to the funeral with stories about what she had done for them. Rides, meals, childcare, money, listening, labor. My father stood beside the casket and whispered, "I didn't know she was that tired." I did. I had known since the lasagna pan. I promised myself I would not become the kind of woman people remembered fondly, because they had consumed her gently. Then I became a mother. Promises get complicated when love arrives. My husband, Peter, and I had one child, David. We wanted more, but 2 miscarriages and 1 terrifying emergency surgery made the decision for us. David became our miracle and, if I am honest, our focus, in a way that may not have helped him later. He was sweet, bright, cautious, and deeply uncomfortable with conflict. As a boy, he would cry if 2 other children argued on a playground. He wanted everyone calm. He wanted everyone pleased. He learned early that his mother could fix almost anything, and his father could make a joke when something hurt. Peter died when David was 24. A heart attack. Sudden. 1 hour he was in the garage sorting fishing tackle, and the next I was on the phone with emergency services, watching the life we built fall through my fingers. David moved back home for 3 months after the funeral. He sat with me. He fixed things around the house. He cried in the laundry room when he thought I could not hear. Then he met Ashley at a friend's wedding, and slowly, beautifully at first, he began living forward. I was grateful. I wanted him happy. That desire blinded me longer than I like to admit. Ashley came from a family with money, polish, and the kind of manners that look warm until someone beneath them needs respect. She was pretty in a careful way. Soft blonde hair, perfect nails, coordinated outfits, house always photographed from the best angle. She worked in marketing for a medical device company and spoke in phrases like brand alignment and mental load without noticing whose load she was shifting. When David brought her to meet me, she hugged me and said, "I feel like I know you already. David talks about your cooking constantly." I liked her at first. She asked about Peter. She complimented my garden. She helped clear dishes. She told me she wanted a close relationship with her future mother-in-law because family support is everything. Support. I did not know then how much that word would cost me. David and Ashley married when I was 56. I helped plan, paid for the rehearsal dinner, stored wedding flowers in my refrigerator, and fixed a seating issue the morning of the ceremony when Ashley's aunt refused to sit near her ex-husband. Ashley cried and called me a lifesaver. I believed she meant it with love. Maybe she did. The first grandbaby, Lily, was born 2 years later. When I held her for the first time, the world softened. She had David's eyes, Ashley's mouth, and Peter's little crease between her brows when she frowned. I whispered, "Hello, sweetheart," and she curled her tiny fingers around mine, as if she had been expecting me. Noah arrived 2 years after that, red-faced, furious, and determined to be fed before anyone finished admiring him. I loved them with a love that felt young again. That was the opening. Ashley's maternity leave after Noah was difficult. Lily was 2 and jealous. Noah had reflux. David was promoted and terrified of losing momentum at work. Ashley cried often. I stepped in because that is what mothers do, what grandmothers do, what people do when babies and exhaustion fill a house. At first, it was temporary. Every trap in family labor begins with temporary. Could you come Tuesday so I can nap? Could you watch Lily during Noah's appointment? Could you stay until David gets home? Could you help this week until we find a sitter? Could you do mornings until daycare opens a spot? Could you keep Noah out of daycare for the winter? The pediatrician says he's vulnerable. Each request was reasonable alone. Together they became a life. By the time Noah turned 2, I was at their house Monday through Friday from 7:15 until 5:30, except when 5:30 became 6. Except when Ashley had a late meeting. Except when David had a client dinner. Except when they needed just one Saturday morning. Except when date night became every other Friday. Except when Ashley's gym class started at 6 and she asked if I could just bridge the gap. Bridge the gap. I became the bridge everyone drove over. The symbolic object in this story was my red appointment book. I have used paper calendars my whole life. Peter used to tease me and call it Susan's command center. After he died, the appointment book helped me keep shape around my days. Doctor appointments, church events, garden club, birthdays, bills, lunch with Carol, haircut, oil change, library book club. When I began watching Lily and Noah regularly, I wrote their schedules in red ink. Lily preschool, Noah pediatrician, speech screening, soccer, dentist, grandparents, day, Ashley hair appointment, need kids, David conference, stay late, sick day, school closed, more red filled the pages. Then the red started replacing everything else. Book club crossed out. Carol lunch canceled. Garden committee resigned. Watercolor class missed. Church trip declined. Mammogram rescheduled twice because Ashley had a work conflict. One night I opened the appointment book and realized my own name had disappeared from my own week. That should have been enough. It was not. Women like me do not wake up all at once. We wake in stages, then pretend to sleep a little longer because the people we love are standing beside the bed. The first clear warning came on a Tuesday in October. Noah had a fever, Lily had a school project due, Ashley had left a bag of supplies on the counter with a sticky note. Please help Lily make this look cute. David had forgotten to refill the children's allergy medicine. I spent the day managing medication, wiping noses, making a poster about pumpkins, doing laundry after Noah threw up on his dinosaur blanket, and answering Ashley's texts. Did he nap? Can you send a pic of Lily's project? Make sure she practices her lines. Did the groceries come? My knees hurt by 3. At 5:40, Ashley came home carrying a coffee drink and said, "You look wiped." I am. She glanced at the laundry basket. Did you get to the towels? I looked at her. No. Her eyebrows rose. Oh, okay. Not angry, worse, disappointed, as if I had failed a performance review. That night, I opened my appointment book and wrote down the hours. 7:15 to 5:45. 10.5 hours. Then, I wrote what I had done. Meals, medication, sick care, laundry, school project, groceries, cleanup, transportation. I did the same the next day. And the next. At the end of the week, I had worked 54 hours at their house. Unpaid. The second warning came from my friend Carol. She had invited me to lunch 5 times in 3 months. I had canceled 4. The 5th time she said, "Susan, are you their grandmother or their employee?" I laughed too quickly. Don't be dramatic. I am not being dramatic. I am being retired. You should try it. I looked away. They need me. Carol's face softened. That's what your mother used to say. That sentence went through me like a needle. I did not answer. She reached across the table. Susan, loving those children does not require being consumed by their parents. I wanted to disagree. I could not. The third warning came from David, not Ashley, David. One evening, I stayed late because Ashley and David were going to a charity event. I had already worked the full day. I fed the kids, bathed them, read stories, cleaned the kitchen, and fell asleep sitting upright on the sofa at 8:20. David woke me at 10:40 when they came home. "Mom," he said softly. I startled awake. "Oh, sorry, I must have dozed off." He looked uncomfortable. "You're okay?" "Yes." Ashley walked past us, kicked off her heels, and said, "Thanks, Susan. Could you come at 8 tomorrow instead of 7? We're sleeping in a little." I stared at her. David saw my face. He said, "Ash, maybe Mom needs a break." Ashley sighed. She had a nap. A nap on the sofa after 14 hours. David looked at me, then at her, then at the floor. He said nothing. That silence was worse than her sentence. I drove home that night, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my fingers hurt. When I got home, I took out my red appointment book. I flipped back through 2 years. Red ink everywhere. Then I opened my laptop. I searched local nanny rates, grandparent child care articles, housekeeping rates, transportation mileage, overtime, sick care premiums, after-school rates, weekend babysitting. I searched not because I planned to charge them. At least that is what I told myself. I searched because I needed proof that what I was doing was not help. It was labor. The numbers shocked me. Full-time nanny for 2 children in our area, $26 to $32 an hour, after 40 hours overtime. Household laundry extra, meal preparation extra, mileage reimbursement, sick care higher, evening care higher, weekend care higher. I calculated conservatively at $18 an hour for childcare, far below market, plus modest add-ons for laundry, meals, transportation, and late nights. I went back 2 years, not because I had not helped before, but because that was when the arrangement had become daily and expected. The total was larger than I expected. $68, $440. I stared at it for 20 minutes. Then I cried. Not because I wanted the money, because seeing the number meant seeing how much of myself had been taken without being counted. I printed the invoice. I did not give it to them. Not then. Instead, I tried to talk. That is important. People like Ashley later say they were blindsided. They rarely mention the warnings they ignored because those warnings came without consequences. I asked David to meet me for coffee. Just him. He looked nervous when he arrived. "What's wrong?" "I'm tired." His face softened. "I know, Mom. The kids are a lot." "No, David. I'm tired because I am working full-time for your household." He blinked. I continued. "I love Lily and Noah. That has never changed. But I need the schedule reduced, and I need you and Ashley to understand that I cannot keep doing laundry, meals, transportation, sick days, and late nights as if I am staff." He rubbed his forehead. "Have you talked to Ashley?" "I am talking to you first because you are my son." He looked down. "Work has been crazy." "I know." "Childcare is expensive." "I know." "We just don't have a lot of options." "You have been treating me like the option." He looked wounded. "Mom, that's not fair." "It is exact." His mouth closed. I watched him struggle between love and inconvenience. He said, "What do you want?" "I want 3 days a week maximum. No household laundry, no late nights without asking and confirming, no weekends unless planned. And you need to find backup care." He nodded slowly. "Okay, I'll talk to Ashley." I wanted to believe him. He did talk to Ashley. I know because she called me that night with ice in her voice. "David says you feel used." I said I'm tired. He said you want us to hire help. I said you need backup care. She laughed once. "Must be nice to just change your availability when people rely on you." I sat quietly. She continued. "Susan, I don't know what you think working parents do, but we can't just rearrange everything because you suddenly want hobbies." There it was again, hobbies. I said, "My life is not a hobby." She inhaled sharply. "That's not what I meant." "It is exactly what you meant." She shifted tactics. "The kids will be devastated." "I will still see them." "They're attached to you." "I am attached to them too." "Then why would you do this?" "Because I am 61 years old, and I cannot continue working 50-hour weeks for free." She went quiet, then said, "Wow." A small word. Full of punishment. She ended the call with, "We'll figure something out," in the tone of a woman who believed I would break before she had to. For 3 weeks, they behaved better. Ashley thanked me. David came home closer to 5:30. Laundry was reduced. They interviewed one after-school sitter and declared her not a fit because she wanted $22 an hour. Then the old pattern returned. A work emergency, a sick day, a weekend brunch, a school closure, a dinner party. The dinner party. Ashley loved hosting, not because she loved feeding people, because she loved being admired for a house whose working parts were often maintained by me. The April dinner was for 3 couples: Marin and Josh from Ashley's office, Brad and Tessa from David's firm, and Nicole and Evan from their neighborhood. Ashley asked if I could help a little that Saturday. I said, "What time?" "Maybe 7:30? The dinner is at 7. "I know. I just need help with the kids during the day." "That is not a little." She laughed lightly. "Susan, you're so literal." I almost said no. Then Lily called on speaker and asked if Grandma could help paint her fairy house before the guests came. So I went. That is how they always got me. Through the children. I spent the day working. By evening, my feet ached. My back was tight. My patience was folded into a small square and placed somewhere unreachable. I had the invoice in my purse because after the phone call with Ashley weeks earlier, I had begun carrying it the way some women carry pepper spray. Not because I wanted to use it, because it reminded me I was allowed to defend myself. At dinner, Ashley made the joke. Free babysitter. Free laundry service. No hobbies. I gave her the invoice. At first, she laughed. Then she opened the envelope. I watched her eyes move across the first page. Childcare services. Period covered. April 6th, 2 years prior, through April 5th, current year. Average weekly hours. Meal preparation. Transportation. Laundry. Sick day care. Weekend and evening coverage. Local market comparison. Conservative family rate applied. Total estimated value of services. $68, $440. Her smile disappeared. David leaned toward her. "What is it?" She turned the page. The table was completely silent now, except for the faint clink of silverware from the kitchen and Noah's footsteps overhead. Ashley looked up. "This is disgusting." I did not move. Marin said softly, "What is it?" Ashley snapped, "Nothing." I said, "It is an invoice for 2 years of childcare and household labor." David whispered, "Mom." I looked at him. "No." He stopped. Ashley's face reddened. "You're billing us?" "I am showing you what you have been receiving for free while mocking me for it." "In front of our guests?" "You mocked me in front of them first." Tessa looked at her plate. Josh suddenly found his water glass fascinating. Ashley's voice shook. "I cannot believe you would do this to us." I smiled gently. "Ashley, I have been doing this for you." She stood. "This is insane. Grandparents help. That's what normal families do." I nodded. Grandparents help. Staff work assigned shifts. David said, "Can we talk privately?" "Later. I'm leaving now." Lily appeared at the top of the stairs again. "Grandma, are you going?" My heart cracked. I turned toward her and softened my voice. "Yes, sweetheart, I'll call you tomorrow." Ashley said, "See? Now you're upsetting them." I looked back at her. "No, you created a house where my leaving feels like an emergency." That sentence landed harder than I expected. David closed his eyes. I picked up my purse. On the way out, I stopped beside my son. "I love you. I love your children. But I will not be free staff anymore." Then I left. I need to pause here for a second. If you have ever had someone mock the work they depend on, you know exactly what that dining room felt like. It was not about getting paid $68,000. It was about making invisible labor visible enough that no one could laugh at it again. If this story is hitting close to home, leave a comment and tell me what unpaid work people in your family stopped seeing. And if you have not already, subscribe to Ultimate Revenge. The quiet part is over. My phone started ringing before I reached my car. David. Ashley. David again. Then a text from Ashley. You humiliated me in my own home. I replied from the driveway. You humiliated me first. My services end immediately until we discuss a respectful arrangement, she wrote. Services? You're their grandmother, I replied. Exactly. I'm returning to that role. Then I drove home. The first night was awful. Not because I regretted the invoice. Because I knew Lily and Noah would feel the change before the adults understood it. I sat in my kitchen with tea I did not drink and looked at my red appointment book. Monday was already filled with their schedule. Preschool drop-off. Noah dentist. Lily dance. Ashley late meeting. I drew a line through all of it, not angrily, carefully. Then I wrote on the page. Susan. Watercolor class, 10 o'clock. My hand shook. I had not signed up yet. But I would. The next morning, David came over. Alone. He looked like he had slept badly. I opened the door, but did not step aside immediately. Is Ashley with you? No. Good. He winced. Mom. Come in. He sat at my kitchen table, the same table where he had done homework as a child, cried after his father died, and told me he was going to propose to Ashley. I placed the invoice between us. He did not touch it. I'm sorry, he said. I waited. For what specifically? He looked up. That question had become necessary in my life. For letting Ashley talk to you that way. I waited. For talking about you like help was automatic. I waited. For laughing last night. That one hurt. Yes. His eyes filled. I heard myself laugh, and I knew it was wrong. Then why did you do it? He looked down. Because it was easier than challenging her. That ease cost me. I know. Do you? He picked up the invoice, turned the pages slowly, and stopped at the weekly hours summary. I didn't realize it was this much. You did not want to. He nodded. That's fair. No, it is exact. He gave a tired little smile. You sound like Grandma Ruth. Good. We sat quietly. Then he said, Ashley is furious. I assumed. She says you made her look abusive. I made her look documented. He rubbed his eyes. She says we can't afford full-time care. Then you cannot afford to treat full-time care as worthless. He flinched. Good. I continued. I am not asking you to pay this invoice in full. He looked up quickly. I'm not? No, the invoice is a record, not a demand. But going forward, if you need regular childcare, it will be paid, scheduled, and limited. He nodded slowly. What are you willing to do? 2 afternoons a week as grandma, unpaid, from 3 to 6, if I choose. Anything beyond that is discussed in advance. No household laundry, no hosting prep. No grocery management, no sick care unless I offer, no weekends unless mutually planned. If you need consistent childcare, hire someone. He looked overwhelmed. That's a big change. Yes. The kids will miss you. I will miss them too. Will you explain it to them? No, I said gently. You will. You are their father. You will explain that Grandma loves them and adults are making a new schedule. He stared at the table. I don't know how we became people who needed this conversation. One ignored boundary at a time. He cried then, quietly. I wanted to comfort him the way I always had. Instead, I let him feel it. That was harder than giving the invoice. Ashley did not speak to me for 9 days. She sent one email. A long one. It said I had embarrassed her, betrayed her, weaponized family, made motherhood harder, punished the children, and failed to understand the pressure working mothers face. I printed it, highlighted the parts where she mentioned my feelings. There were none. I did not respond immediately. Instead, I did something I had not done in 2 years. I went to watercolor class. At 10 o'clock Monday morning, I sat in a community center room with 11 women, one retired mailman named Greg, and a teacher who told us not to be afraid of ugly first layers. I painted a pear that looked more like a potato with anxiety. I loved it. My phone buzzed 6 times during class. Ashley. David. The school. I did not answer until class ended. The school had called because no one had picked up Noah's dentist form. David handled it. Not gracefully, but he handled it. That week, reality arrived at their house. The after-school program had a wait list. A nanny agency charged a placement fee that made Ashley send David 3 angry texts he accidentally forwarded to me. A neighborhood sitter could do Tuesdays, but not Thursdays. Noah got a cold, and Ashley had to cancel a client call. David had to leave work early twice. Laundry piled up. Dinner became takeout. The children survived. The adults complained like civilization had ended. On Friday, Lily called me from David's phone. "Grandma, Daddy made pasta, but it stuck together." I smiled. Was it still edible? What does edible mean? Could you eat it? Yes, but Noah said it was wormy. I laughed. David came on the line. "Thanks, Mom." "For what?" "For not rescuing us this week." That sounds backward. It isn't. That was progress. Ashley finally called the following Sunday. Her voice was controlled. "Can we talk?" "Yes." "I'm still upset." "I know. I think the invoice was humiliating." "Yes?" She waited. I did not apologize. Finally, she said, "But I read it." "Good. All of it?" "Good." Her voice cracked slightly. I didn't know it was that many hours. I closed my eyes. "You knew the days I arrived and left." "I didn't add them." "No, you benefited from not adding them." Silence. Then she whispered, "That's probably true." Probably, not perfect, but a door. She continued, "I'm sorry for the free babysitter comment." I waited. For what specifically? She sighed. For saying it in front of guests. For making it sound like you don't have a life. For treating your help like something we were entitled to. For letting the kids depend on you in a way that made it harder for you to say no. That was the first apology with "wait, thank you." I don't know how to fix this. You don't fix it with one apology, you change the arrangement. She was quiet. We're interviewing a nanny. Good. It's expensive. Yes. She charges extra for laundry. Yes. And mileage. Yes. And guaranteed hours, even if we cancel. Yes. Ashley gave a tired laugh. I hate how many of your invoice categories were real. They were always real. I know. Another silence. Then she said, "Can you still come to Lily's school concert?" My heart softened. Yes. I'm her grandmother. Okay. But I am coming as a guest. Not pickup, not dressing her, not bringing snacks unless I choose. I understand. Do you? I'm trying to. That was enough for that day. The public correction happened 2 weeks later. Ashley invited the same dinner guests back for brunch. I declined. She said, "Please, I want to say something in front of them." That sounded suspiciously like another performance. I said, "Ashley, if you want to apologize, you can do it without an audience." She was quiet. Then she said, "You're right." Good, but apparently the guests asked anyway. Marin had seen enough at dinner to ask Ashley privately if things were okay. Tessa, who had barely spoken that night, told David at work that her own mother had been used for childcare, and it had nearly destroyed their relationship. Brad apologized to David for laughing. The joke had not aged well. 3 weeks after the Invoice dinner, Ashley posted something online. Not a dramatic confession. A simple one. For 2 years, my mother-in-law helped our family in ways I did not fully acknowledge. I joked about her being a free babysitter, and it was disrespectful. Childcare, laundry, meals, transportation, and sick day care are real labor. We are making changes so she can be grandma, not unpaid staff. I'm sorry, Susan, she tagged no one. Posted no photo, turned off comments. That last choice impressed me. She was not collecting praise, she was correcting the record. I sent her one text, "Thank you." She replied, "I owed it." Yes, she did. The nanny they hired was named Carla. Carla was 48, calm, direct, and had no interest in family guilt. I met her because Ashley asked if I would help transition the children's routines. I agreed for one morning only. Carla brought a contract. Guaranteed hours. Late fees, sick care policy, mileage, holiday pay, household duties limited to child-related tasks, no deep cleaning, no parent laundry, no unpaid overtime. Ashley read it with the expression of a woman discovering that labor law had entered her kitchen. Carla asked, "Any questions?" Ashley glanced at me. I kept my face neutral. David said, "No, it's clear." Carla smiled. "I like clear." So did I. Lily loved Carla immediately because Carla knew how to French braid. Noah distrusted her for 12 minutes and then asked if she liked dinosaurs. Carla said she respected dinosaurs, but did not trust triceratops near furniture. Noah accepted her. I left at noon. No one asked me to switch laundry. That felt like a national holiday. The first month was awkward. My body kept waking at 6 as if I had somewhere to be. My hands kept reaching for the phone when school notifications came through. My heart pinched every Tuesday morning when I did not see Noah's sleepy face. Freedom is not always joyful at first. Sometimes it feels like withdrawal from being needed. I had to rebuild myself on purpose. Watercolor class. Tuesday walks with Carol. Thursday book club. Garden committee. A physical therapy appointment for my knee I had postponed for 9 months. A weekend trip to Lancaster with 2 friends, where I did not pack anyone's snacks except my own. The first time I drank coffee on my porch at 8:30 on a weekday, hot and uninterrupted, I cried. Not dramatically, just a few tears. For my mother. For myself. For all the women who thought needing rest meant loving less. My relationship with the children changed. At first, Lily was upset. "Why doesn't Grandma pick me up every day?" David told her, "Because Grandma has her own days too." She said, "But I want Grandma days." He said, "Me too sometimes, but Grandma gets to choose." That sentence mattered. The first time she repeated it to me, she sounded solemn. "Daddy says you get to choose." I knelt in front of her. "That's right." "Do you choose me?" My throat tightened. "Always, but I also choose other things sometimes." "Like painting?" "Yes." "Can I paint with you?" "Yes." So we started Sunday painting. Once a month, Lily and Noah came to my house. We painted messy flowers, crooked houses, dinosaurs with suspiciously long legs, and once, an abstract piece Noah called Angry Spaghetti. I made pancakes. They helped water the garden. I sent them home with paint on their elbows and no folded laundry. Grandma days became special again, not because they were rare, because they belonged to love, not obligation. David changed more than Ashley at first. He began handling school forms, doctor portals, dentist appointments, soccer snacks. He learned that children's shoes disappear into dimensions only parents can access through prayer and swearing. He called me once and said, "How did you know where everything was?" "I paid attention." He sighed. "I'm sorry I treated that like magic." "Thank you." He came over one afternoon to fix my porch light, then asked before opening the utility drawer. I looked at him. He smiled sheepishly. "Learning." I handed him the screwdriver. Ashley's change was slower and more painful, probably because the invoice forced her to see something ugly about herself. One afternoon, she asked if we could have coffee. I said yes. We met at a small cafe near my house. She arrived without makeup, which made her look younger and more tired. "I've been thinking about why I said what I said," she began. I waited. "I think I liked people believing I managed everything." "That was honest," she continued. "When guests came over and the house looked good, and the kids were clean, and dinner was ready, I wanted credit. And if I admitted how much you did, then I had to admit I wasn't doing it all." I said, "You were working full-time." "I know, but I still wanted the image." "Yes." She looked down. "And I think I resented you." That surprised me. For helping? For being better at the kids than me? I sat back. "Ashley, I know it sounds awful. It sounds honest." She wiped her eyes. "They ran to you. You knew what they liked. You were patient when I was exhausted. It made me feel like a bad mother, so I turned you into staff in my head. Staff could be good with them without threatening me. Grandma being better hurt more. There it was, not an excuse, a root. I softened a little. I was not better. I was less divided in those moments because I was not also trying to prove myself at work. She nodded. Maybe, but I punished you for my insecurity. Yes. I'm sorry. Thank you. She looked at me. Do you think we can have a real relationship? I don't know yet. That's fair. It will depend on what happens when you're stressed. She gave a small laugh. That is terrifyingly reasonable. Good. The invoice remained unpaid. People always ask that part. No, they did not hand me $68,440. That was never the point. But 6 months after the dinner, David and Ashley gave me a check for $5,000. I tried to refuse. David said, "Mom, please." Ashley said, "It's not repayment, it's acknowledgement." I looked at the check. What does that mean? David said, "It means we know we can't pay back what we took, but we can stop pretending it was nothing." I accepted. Then I used part of it to take a watercolor retreat in Maine. 4 days. Ocean. Paint. No children. No laundry. No emergency texts. On the second morning, I painted a lighthouse that leaned slightly left and a sky that looked like bruised lavender. It was imperfect, and mine. I bought myself a new appointment book in a coastal gift shop. Blue this time. No red ink. When I returned, Lily asked if I painted anything for her. I showed her the lighthouse. She tilted her head. It's a little crooked. So am I. She laughed. Can I have it? No, I said. Her eyes widened. I smiled. This one is mine. I'll paint you another. She considered this. Okay. That was also part of the lesson. Grandma can keep things. Grandma can have a life. Grandma can say no and still love you. A year after the Invoice dinner, David and Ashley hosted another dinner. This time, I was invited as a guest. Carla was paid to watch the children upstairs. I brought wine, not potatoes. Ashley cooked. Not perfectly. The chicken was slightly dry. The potatoes needed salt. No one died. At the table, Marin asked me about my painting retreat. I told her about Maine. Ashley listened. Then said, "Susan's watercolors are beautiful." I almost looked behind me for another Susan. David smiled. They are. No joke, no free babysitter, no hobbies, just acknowledgement. Later that night, after guests left, Ashley walked me to the door. "Thank you for coming," she said. "Thank you for inviting me as a guest." She nodded. "I noticed you didn't clear plates." I noticed too. We both laughed. That laugh was small but real. The invoice is now framed in my home office. Not the whole thing, just the final page, with the total and one line I added afterward. Value acknowledged. Access revised. Grammar restored. Carol says framing it is dramatic. I told her watercolor requires composition. She laughed. The red appointment book is on the same shelf as my mother's old recipe box. Sometimes I look at it and think about Ruth, washing pans and mistaking exhaustion for purpose. I wish she had given someone an invoice. I wish she had taken more walks. I wish she had known that being needed is not the same as being loved well. Maybe I learned too late for her, but not too late for me. The final lesson is not that grandparents should never help. Help can be holy. Grandchildren can bring light back into rooms, grief emptied. Family support can save young parents from drowning. But help must be chosen, respected, and bounded. When help becomes expected, it is labor. When labor is mocked, it is exploitation. When exploitation is named, people who benefited may call it betrayal because they were comfortable when only you were paying the price. My daughter-in-law called me a free babysitter. I sent her my invoice at dinner. And when the room went silent, when my son finally looked at the hours, when Ashley learned what childcare really costs when the grandmother steps back, the story changed. I did not stop loving my grandchildren. I stopped letting their parents spend me for free. Thank you for staying with me through this story. I know some of you have been the unpaid babysitter, the emergency pickup, the sick day coverage, the laundry folder. the dinner prepper, the person everyone praises only when you keep saying yes. If Susan's story reached you, I hope you remember that love is not a blank check, retirement is not automatic availability, and grandmother is a relationship, not a job description. You are allowed to count your hours. You are allowed to send the invoice, even if the payment you need most is respect. Subscribe to Ultimate Revenge for more stories about quiet women, family betrayal, silent comebacks, and the moment invisible labor finally gets a number. So tell me, if your daughter-in-law called you a free babysitter in front of guests after 2 years of unpaid childcare, would you laugh it off to keep the peace? Or would you hand her the invoice and let the whole table learn what free really cost?